I discovered my fiancée was having a secret relationship with her gay best friend for years. When I confronted her, her parents called me controlling and her friends started a smear campaign, but then her own sister showed me the truth. My name is Matt, and I never thought I'd be sharing a story like this, but here we are. 3 months ago, my entire life imploded when I discovered my fiancée of 5 years, Olivia, wasn't who I thought she was. Not even close. We met in college, during our junior year. I was the quiet engineering major, and she was this vibrant, outgoing psychology student who somehow noticed me at a mutual friend's party. From the beginning, our relationship felt almost too good to be true. She was beautiful, funny, and seemed completely invested in our future together. We moved in together after graduation, got engaged last year, and were planning our wedding for this fall. Olivia had a tight-knit group of friends, but her closest friend was Ryan. They'd known each other since high school, and she always described him as her gay best friend. I never questioned it because, well, why would I? They were incredibly close, texted constantly, and hung out at least once a week for what she called their bestie nights. Sometimes I'd join them, but usually, it was just the two of them getting dinner, watching movies at his place, or going shopping. I trusted her completely. I mean, he was gay, right? What could possibly happen? The first sign that something was off came about 4 months ago. We were at a friend's birthday party, and Ryan was there with his boyfriend, Tyler. I noticed Ryan barely acknowledged Tyler all night, but kept finding excuses to be near Olivia. At one point, I walked into the kitchen and saw them standing unusually close, whispering. They jumped apart when they saw me, and Olivia immediately started chatting about something completely random, like she was trying to distract me. I brushed it off. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me or something. Looking back, I was so naive it hurts. A few weeks later, Olivia left her laptop open while she went to shower. I wasn't snooping, I swear, but a Facebook notification popped up from Ryan. The preview showed just enough. I miss you so much when he's around. Last night was. That was all I could see, but it was enough to make my stomach drop. I clicked on the message, telling myself I was overreacting, that there had to be an innocent explanation. There wasn't. What I found was years of messages between them. Years. Not just any messages, but explicit conversations, plans for their meetups, discussions about me and how they needed to be careful. Turns out, Ryan wasn't gay. He'd never been gay. It was just a convenient cover story they'd concocted so they could spend time together without raising suspicion. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through their history. There were photos they'd sent each other, plans they'd made for trips while telling me Ryan was going with other friends. There were even messages from the night before our engagement, where she told him she loved him but was going to say yes to me because it made sense for now. I felt like I was going to vomit. 5 years of my life, all built on a lie. The woman I thought I knew, who I'd planned a future with, had been leading a double life the entire time. And the worst part? There were messages where they literally laughed about how clueless I was, how I never suspected a thing. I didn't confront her immediately. I couldn't. I was in shock. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my email, and then closed her laptop. I needed time to process, to figure out what to do. I went to work the next day like nothing happened, came home, kissed her hello like I always did. But inside, I was dying. For 2 days, I watched her text Ryan and smile at her phone, telling me it was just Ryan being silly. I watched her lie to my face about going to meet the girls when I knew from their messages she was meeting him. I listened to her tell me she loved me, all while knowing she had just told him the same thing hours earlier. It was the most surreal, painful experience of my life. On the 3rd day, I couldn't take it anymore. She was getting ready to go out, supposedly meeting her sister for dinner, but I knew from their messages she was actually meeting Ryan at a hotel. Their regular spot, apparently. "You're not meeting your sister tonight, are you?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm considering I felt like my chest was being ripped open. She froze, mascara wand halfway to her eye. "What? Of course I am. We're trying that new Italian place downtown." I just stared at her, saying nothing. "What's wrong with you?" she asked, laughing nervously. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "I know about Ryan," I said simply. The way her face changed told me everything. First confusion, then shock, then this awful calculating look as she tried to figure out what exactly I knew and how she could spin it. "What about Ryan?" she asked carefully. "I know he's not gay. I know you've been sleeping with him for years. I know our entire relationship has been a lie." She started crying immediately. Not the ugly, genuine crying of someone caught in a terrible mistake. These were perfect, movie star tears sliding down her cheeks while her face remained composed. It was like watching a performance. "It's not what you think," she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "Ryan and I. It's complicated. We have history, yes, but I chose you, Matt. I've always chosen you. Except on your bestie nights? And your fake shopping trips? And apparently the night before I proposed?" I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Her strategy shifted instantly. "You went through my private messages? How could you invade my privacy like that? I trusted you." The audacity was breathtaking. I just laughed, which seemed to throw her off. "That's really where you're going with this? You've been cheating on me our entire relationship, and you're upset I saw the evidence?" I shook my head. "I didn't go looking for anything, Olivia. The message popped up, and given what I saw, I think I had every right to look further." She switched tactics again, breaking down and heaving sobs, telling me how confused she'd been, how Ryan was her past but I was her future, how she'd been ending things with him slowly because she couldn't hurt him. "You were with him 3 days ago," I said flatly. "You've been with him dozens of times since we got engaged. There are messages from last week where you told him you wish you could wake up next to him every morning instead of me. So please, stop lying. You're just making this worse." She stared at me, mascara now streaking down her face. "What do you want me to say, Matt? That I made a terrible mistake? I did. I'm sorry. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll cut Ryan off completely. Please don't throw away what we have over one mistake." One mistake? This wasn't one mistake, Olivia. This was thousands of deliberate choices over years. You created an entire fake persona for your lover so you could see him right under my nose. You made me think I was crazy whenever I felt something was off. That's not a mistake, that's psychological warfare. I stood up, suddenly feeling suffocated in our apartment, the home we'd built together, filled with photos of us smiling, looking so happy. All fake. "I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I'll come get my things tomorrow when you're at work." Her panic was immediate and visceral. "No, Matt, please. You can't just leave. We need to talk about this. I'll do anything, please." Part of me, the weak part that still loved the person I thought she was, almost gave in. But then I remembered the messages where she and Ryan had laughed about me, and my resolve hardened. "There's nothing to talk about. We're done." As I packed an overnight bag, she called her mother. I could hear her on the phone, sobbing, telling a completely twisted version of events. According to her tearful account, I had suddenly flipped out, accused her of cheating out of nowhere, and invaded her privacy by hacking into her Facebook. She made it sound like I was having some kind of paranoid episode. I didn't bother correcting her. I just grabbed my bag and left, as her voice followed me down the hallway. "Matt, don't do this. We can work it out." The hotel was sterile and depressing, but it was better than staying in that apartment full of lies. I sat on the edge of the bed, my head in my hands, wondering how I could have been so blind. All those nights I'd stayed up waiting for her to come home from her girls' nights, all those times she'd been distant and I'd blamed myself for not being attentive enough. It all made sense now. My phone started blowing up with messages. Her mother calling to tell me I was making a huge mistake, that all couples go through rough patches. Her father texting to say I was overreacting and needed to man up and work through problems instead of running away. Even some of our mutual friends were reaching out, clearly having heard her version of events, asking me if I was okay, if I needed to talk to someone. The only person who didn't contact me was her sister, Emma. Emma and I had always gotten along well, and she'd become almost like a sister to me too. Her silence was deafening. The next day, I went back to the apartment while Olivia was supposed to be at work. I just wanted to get my essential things and leave without another confrontation. But when I opened the door, she was sitting on the couch, clearly having called in sick to ambush me. "We need to talk," she said, her voice hoarse from crying. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, wearing the old sweatshirt of mine she always slept in when I was away on business trips. It was a calculated move, I realized. She knew exactly how to appear vulnerable and make me feel protective. "There's nothing to talk about," I repeated, moving past her to the bedroom to start packing. She followed me, hovering in the doorway. "Matt, please. 5 years. 5 years can't just end like this. I made a terrible mistake, I know that. But what we have is real. My feelings for you are real." I continued packing, trying to ignore the way my hands shook as I grabbed clothes from the closet we shared. Were they real when you were meeting him in hotel rooms? Were they real when you were laughing with him about how clueless I was? Tell me, Olivia, which part was real? "All of it," she insisted, stepping closer. "I do love you, Matt. Ryan is. He's my past. He keeps pulling me back, and I've been too weak to end it completely. But I want to. For you. For us. I stopped and looked at her directly. If I hadn't found those messages, would you be ending it with him? Or would you have married me and just continued seeing him on the side? She couldn't hold my gaze. That was answer enough. That's what I thought, I said quietly, zipping up my suitcase. As I moved toward the door, she grabbed my arm. You're throwing away 5 years over one mistake. Is that really what you want to do? Don't you think we at least owe it to ourselves to try? It wasn't one mistake, I said, gently removing her hand. And we don't owe each other anything anymore. You made your choice, multiple times, and now I'm making mine. Her face hardened slightly. So that's it? You're just giving up? What are you going to tell people? That you snooped through my private messages and didn't like what you found? Tell them whatever you want, Olivia. I really don't care anymore. That was a lie. I did care. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much this was destroying me. As I left the apartment, she called after me, "You'll regret this, Matt. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do." Those words echoed in my head as I drove to the extended stay hotel I'd booked. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do. I certainly hope not. I didn't think I could survive another person loving me that way. The next few days were a blur. I took a week off work, claiming a family emergency. I ignored the constant calls and texts from Olivia and her parents. I drank too much, slept too little, and tried to wrap my head around the fact that my entire relationship, the foundation upon which I'd built my future plans, had been a carefully constructed lie. On the 4th day, there was a knock at my hotel room door. I assumed it was hotel staff and almost didn't answer. But when the knocking persisted, I dragged myself off the bed and opened the door to find Emma, Olivia's sister, standing there. "Can I come in?" she asked, her expression unreadable. I stepped aside, too surprised to refuse. Emma and Olivia looked similar, same dark hair and hazel eyes, but where Olivia was always perfectly put together, Emma was more natural, less concerned with appearances. Today, she looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. "How did you find me?" I asked as she sat down in the room's single chair. "Mom and Dad hired a private investigator," she said matter-of-factly. "They're worried about you." I let out a harsh laugh. "They're not worried about me. They're worried about what people will think when they have to cancel the wedding venue they put a deposit on." Emma didn't argue with that. Instead, she looked around the depressing hotel room, taking in the empty whiskey bottles and takeout containers. "You look like shit," she observed. "Thanks. I feel worse." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "Look, I'm not here to convince you to go back to her. I needed to see you, to make sure you're okay." I sat on the edge of the bed, eyeing her warily. "Why? Aren't you supposed to be on your sister's side?" "I love my sister," Emma said carefully. "But I also know her. And..." She hesitated, seeming to weigh her words. "I need to show you something." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then handed it to me. It was a group chat between Olivia and her friends, including Emma. The messages were from yesterday. "Olivia, I can fix this. Matt's just being dramatic. He'll cool off and come back. Friend 1, of course he will. He's always been obsessed with you. Just cry a lot and tell him you'll never do it again. Olivia, oh, I already tried that. He's being stubborn. But once the shock wears off, he'll realize no one else will put up with his boring ass like I do. Friend 2, can't believe he went through your messages though. That's so controlling. Olivia, right? I'm actually the victim here. He invaded my privacy. Friend 1, you should tell people that. Focus on how he's been controlling and paranoid for years, and this was just the final straw. Olivia, already on it. I talked to a few of our mutual friends. They're totally on my side. Emma, is anyone going to acknowledge that you've been cheating on him for years? With someone you told him was gay? Olivia, oh shut up Emma. Not everyone wants to be in a boring, monogamous relationship like you and David. Matt and I had an understanding. Emma, no you didn't. You lied to him. You made him think he was crazy whenever he suspected something. Olivia, whatever. Are you going to help me or not? Emma, help you what? Olivia, get him back, obviously. Mom and Dad are freaking out about having to cancel the wedding. I handed the phone back to Emma, feeling numb. So she's trying to paint me as controlling and paranoid? Emma nodded, looking miserable. It's already working too. She's got most of your mutual friends believing you invaded her privacy over nothing. That you've been jealous and controlling for years. She's even telling people you've been emotionally abusive. My stomach clenched. And people believe her? Some do. Olivia's always been good at playing the victim. And Emma hesitated again. She's done this before. I stared at her. What do you mean? Emma looked down at her hands. Her last boyfriend before you, Jake? She told everyone he cheated on her, that's why they broke up. But that wasn't true. She was seeing Ryan back then too, and Jake found out. She turned it around on him somehow, made everyone think he was the cheater. I didn't know the full story then, but I've pieced it together over the years. I felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Why are you showing me these messages? Emma met my eyes. Because you're a good guy, Matt. You didn't deserve any of this. And because. She swallowed hard. Olivia does this. She uses people, she lies, and then she makes herself the victim when it all falls apart. I've watched her do it my entire life, and I'm tired of being complicit by staying silent. I nodded slowly, processing this. Thank you for showing me this. It helps, somehow. To know I'm not crazy. You're not crazy, Emma affirmed. And I want you to know that not everyone is buying her story. David and I know the truth. And I've been trying to subtly correct the narrative when I can. We talked for another hour, with Emma filling in more gaps, telling me things about Olivia I'd never known, patterns of behavior that went back to her childhood. It was painful to hear, but also strangely healing. The person I'd loved hadn't existed, but at least now I understood why. As Emma was leaving, she paused at the door. What are you going to do now? I'd been asking myself the same question. I don't know. Find a new apartment, I guess. Try to move on. And what about the stuff she's saying about you? The rumors? I shrugged, feeling suddenly exhausted. What can I do? It's her word against mine. Emma gave me a long look. Maybe. Or maybe not. I didn't understand what she meant then. But I would soon enough. 2 days later, I returned to work. It was awkward. Some colleagues clearly knew something was wrong, but no one knew what to say. I kept my head down and tried to focus on the projects I'd neglected during my week away. Then, during lunch, my phone started blowing up with notifications. I had dozens of messages from friends, from Olivia, from her parents. I ignored them all until I got a text from Emma, check Facebook. When I opened the app, I was greeted with a public post from Emma that had already gathered hundreds of comments. I've stayed silent for too long while my sister, Olivia, has manipulated and hurt people I care about. For those who have heard Matt is controlling or abusive, it's a lie. The truth is, Olivia has been cheating on Matt their entire relationship with a man she told Matt was gay. When Matt discovered the truth, instead of accepting responsibility, she began spreading lies about him being controlling and invasive of her privacy. I have proof of everything I'm saying, including messages where she admits to the affair and discusses how to turn people against Matt. I'm sorry, Liv, but I can't watch you destroy another good person with your lies. Attached to the post were screenshots, the same ones she'd shown me at the hotel, plus others I hadn't seen. Messages where Olivia explicitly discussed her relationship with Ryan, where she talked about how she was manipulating me, where she bragged to friends about being able to have her cake and eat it too. My phone rang. It was Olivia. I declined the call, only for it to ring again immediately. After the 5th call in a row, I finally answered. How could you? She screamed, her voice raw with fury. How could you show those private messages to Emma? Do you know what you've done? I didn't show Emma anything, I said calmly. She showed them to me. I had no idea she was going to post them publicly. Liar, Olivia spat. Those were from my private conversations. Only you could have. Maybe Ryan shared them, I suggested, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Or maybe one of your friends isn't as loyal as you thought. It doesn't really matter, does it? The truth is out now. She started sobbing. You've ruined my life. People are saying horrible things about me. My parents are furious. How could you do this to me? The irony was staggering. I didn't do anything to you, Olivia. This is the consequence of your own actions. I hate you, she whispered. I fucking hate you. Goodbye, Olivia, I said, and hung up. The fallout was immediate and intense. Most of our mutual friends reached out to apologize for believing Olivia's version of events. Some people took her side, claiming the messages were taken out of context or that Emma had some vendetta against her sister. Olivia's parents stopped harassing me and instead focused their energy on damage control, trying to get Emma to take down the post. She refused. Ryan's boyfriend, Tyler, sent me a heartfelt message apologizing for not saying something sooner. He'd had suspicions for months but had been gaslit by Ryan into thinking he was paranoid. He'd broken up with Ryan the day Emma's post went public. As for me, I found a new apartment across town. I boxed up the engagement ring and mailed it to Olivia's parents' house, where she'd apparently moved back in after I left. I deleted all our photos together, gave away anything that reminded me of her, and tried to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I missed the Olivia I thought I knew, the woman who curled against me while we watched movies, who knew exactly how I took my coffee, who had once been my best friend. But then I'd remember that person had never really existed. She'd been a carefully crafted character in a play I didn't know I was part of. Emma and I stayed in touch. Not often, it was still too painful, too complicated, but occasionally we'd meet for coffee. She'd been ostracized by much of her family for exposing Olivia, but she said she didn't regret it. Someone had to stop the cycle, she told me during one of our meetups. She would have just done this to someone else if I hadn't said something. 3 months have passed now. I'm still processing, still healing. But I'm also starting to see things more clearly. Looking back, there were so many red flags I ignored, so many inconsistencies in Olivia's stories that I chose not to question because I trusted her completely. I've learned some hard lessons about trust, about how the people who hurt you the most are often the ones you never suspect. I've learned that some people can lie so convincingly that they almost believe their own deceptions. And I've learned that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them the first time. Last week, I ran into Tyler at a bar downtown. We ended up talking for hours, comparing notes on our respective betrayals. As painful as the conversation was, it was also strangely cathartic, to talk to someone who truly understood how it felt to be deceived so completely. As for Olivia and Ryan, I heard through the grapevine that they're officially together now. Part of me wonders if they'll be happy, if what they have is real or just another elaborate deception. But mostly, I find I don't care. They're part of my past now, not my future. I'm not ready to date again, not yet. The thought of trusting someone that completely again is still too frightening. But I'm getting there, day by day, rebuilding my life on a foundation of truth rather than lies. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that the truth always finds its way to the surface eventually. No matter how carefully someone constructs their lies, reality has a way of breaking through. I'm just grateful I found out before I married her, before we had children, before I spent decades living a life built entirely on deception. As painful as these 3 months have been, they would have been infinitely worse if I'd discovered the truth years into a marriage. So that's my story. A cautionary tale, perhaps, about trust and betrayal and the importance of paying attention to those little moments of doubt that we so often push aside. Or maybe it's simply a reminder that sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones that ultimately set us free. A few days ago, I changed my relationship status on Facebook to single. It was the final step in publicly acknowledging the end of my relationship with Olivia. Within minutes, Emma liked the update. It was a small gesture, but it meant something, a quiet acknowledgement of how far I've come, of the truth I've finally embraced. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust someone again the way I trusted Olivia. But I do know this, I deserve better than a life built on lies. We all do. Yesterday, I went back to the coffee shop where Olivia and I had our first date. I sat at the same table, ordered the same drink, and instead of feeling sad, I felt something unexpected, relief. Relief that I was no longer living in a beautiful illusion. Relief that, despite everything, I'd found the strength to walk away. Relief that, somehow, I was going to be okay. The truth hurts, there's no denying that. But living a lie? That's a slower, more insidious kind of pain, the kind that erodes your sense of self until you can't remember who you were before the deception began. I choose the truth, painful as it may be. And in that choice, I've found a kind of freedom I didn't know was possible. To anyone reading this who suspects they're being deceived by someone they love, trust your instincts. Those little moments of doubt, those tiny inconsistencies that make you question your own perception, pay attention to them. They might just be trying to show you a truth you're not ready to see. And remember, you're not alone. Unfortunately, stories like mine are all too common. But there is life after betrayal. There is healing after pain. It just takes time, courage, and a willingness to face the truth, no matter how much it hurts. As for me, I'm taking it one day at a time. Some days are harder than others. Some nights I still wake up reaching for someone who was never really there. But each day gets a little easier, a little brighter. And slowly but surely, I'm rebuilding my life, this time on a foundation of truth. That's all any of us can really do, isn't it? Pick up the pieces, learn from our experiences, and move forward with a little more wisdom and a little more caution. Not in a way that closes us off from love entirely, but in a way that ensures the next time we give our heart to someone, they'll be worthy of the trust that comes with it. So here's to new beginnings, to second chances, to the painful but necessary process of unlearning the lies we've been told and embracing the truth that sets us free. Here's to healing, to growth, and to the hope that somehow, someday, all of this pain will make sense in the grand scheme of things. And here's to Emma, who had the courage to stand up for the truth when it would have been easier to stay silent. Sometimes our greatest allies come from the most unexpected places, and in my darkest moment, I found a friend in the sister of the woman who broke my heart. Life is strange that way, full of unexpected twists and painful lessons, but also small moments of grace that remind us we're not alone in our struggles. And in the end, isn't that what matters most? Not the betrayals we suffer, but the genuine connections we form along the way? Not the lies we're told, but the truths we eventually discover? I think so. And that's enough to keep me going, one day at a time, toward whatever comes next.